Hi everyone, today we're going to solve radical equations. We're going to start with some vocabulary first and then talk about the steps in solving and then look at some examples. So Unit 15.5, Solving Radical Equations. An equation that contains a radical expression with a variable in the radicand, so the variable is in the radicand, is a radical equation. To solve radical equations, first thing we want to do is to isolate the radical on one side. So we're going to get the radical by itself. Then we want to square both sides of the equation. So we're going to isolate the radical, get it by itself, and then we will square both sides of the equation. Example 1. 12 times the square root of x minus 3 is equal to 0. We want this radical part by itself. We're going to get rid of the minus 3 by adding 3. This leaves 12 square roots of x equals positive 3. 12 times the square root of x, we will do division, divide both sides by 12. Square root of x, 3/12 reduces to 1/4. Square both sides after we've isolated the radical. So square and square. Square root of x squared is x. 1/4 squared, 1 squared is 1, 4 squared is 16. We need to check x is equal to 1/16. So if we check, plugging back into the original equation, everywhere you see x, plug in 1/16. Working this out by hand, the square root of 1 is 1, square root of 16 is 1/4. 12 times 1/4 is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So since the check works, our solution is x equals 1/16. Example 2. The square root of x divided by 4 is equal to 3. The radical is isolated, so we will square both sides. Squaring a square root, we get x divided by 4. 3 squared is 9. Solving for x, we'll multiply both sides by 4. And we get x equals 36. To make sure x equals 36 is a solution, we need to check back in the original problem. So everywhere we see x, we'll plug in 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 does equal 3. So x equals 36. Example 3. The square root of 3x plus 3 is equal to 0. Subtract 3 from both sides. We get the square root of 3x is equal to -3. Square both sides. because the radical is isolated. We get 3x. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. Divide both sides by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. We need to check to make sure this is a solution. Checking back in the original. Everywhere you see an x, plug in 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6, but that does not equal 0. So we have a case that is a no solution. So if the check does not work, we call it a no solution. So this has a specific name. Blank solution is an apparent solution that does not satisfy the original equation. The check did not work. We call this an extraneous solution. An extraneous solution. An extraneous solution is an apparent solution that does not satisfy the original equation. We find this out by doing the check. This is why we must always check the solutions. Even though you get a number, it may not work once you do the check. Example 4. The square root of x minus 9 is equal to 4. The radical is isolated, so we will square both sides. Squaring the square root, x minus 9, 4 squared is 16. Add 9 to both sides, we get 25. To make sure this is a solution and not an extraneous solution, we do the check. Plug 25 in for x. 25 minus 9 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 does equal 4. So we have a solution, x equals 25. Example 5. 4 times the square root of x minus 7 plus 12 equals 28. We need to isolate the radical. Subtract 12 first. 4 times the square root of x minus 7. 28 minus 12 is 16. Isolate the radical, so get rid of 4 by dividing both sides. Square root of x minus 7. 16 divided by 4. The radical is isolated, so let's square both sides. Squaring the radical, 4 squared is 16. Add 7 to both sides. We get 23. To make sure this works, let's do a check. Take the original, plug in the solution you got, 23. Work this out. 23 minus 7 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4, so 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 12 is 28. So the check works, so our solution is x equals 23. We'll do one more. 2 times the square root of x plus 6 plus 29 is equal to 21. Subtract 29 from both sides. (21) minus 29 is negative 8. Divide both sides by 2. Get the square root of x plus 6. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. The radical is isolated, so square both sides. Squaring a square root gives us x plus 6. Negative 4 squared is positive 16. Subtract 6. 16 minus 6 is 10. Check. Everywhere we see an x, we'll plug in 10. So we get, for the radicand, 10 plus 6 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4, so 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 29 is 37, but that does not equal 21. So x equals 10 does not work, so we have no solution, which means x equals 10. Even though we got that, it is an extraneous solution because the check does not work. If you have any questions with this section, please email your teachers. I'm happy to help any of you. You're welcome to email me as well. Have a great day.